And I want to welcome everybody to the Vortex Energy Podcast, where we interview interesting people who have a message to help others awaken and reach their ultimate health and spiritual goals. This podcast is sponsored by Peace and Harmony, and I'm playing Peace and Harmony program during this episode to help create 1 million pockets of peace. It helps to remove stress and tension and create your own personal peace pocket. Head to peaceandharmonydownload.com and enjoy. So today I'm really pleased and honored to have with us Amy Jo Ellis. Welcome, Amy Jo.
Hi, what a pleasure to be here and visiting Tasmania. That's really cool.
Yeah. I met Amy Jo only virtually through a mutual friend, Tyson Bannigan. And Tyson was raving about Amy Jo's Court of Atonement. And I was like, I've never heard of that. Who is Amy Jo and what is this Court of Atonement? So Amy Jo, tell us a little bit about how you first started channeling and how you began hearing actual voices and hearing the message from your guides.
Okay, you ask a big question. What I would say is it was more than like hearing voices. It's like my whole life I have had this weird sense of knowing. It's like I just blurt out the correct answer somehow. And so that's always kind of been there. My dad tells a story about asking me, he's saying, I haven't seen my chainsaw. Does anybody know where my chainsaw is? And I said, yes, Daddy, it's in the olive grove. You have to go in the walking path and go back like 5 rows of trees, turn left and go 2 trees over, and it'll be at the base of that tree over there. And he's like, she's so little, it's like, it's 200 yards from the house. When was she in the olive grove to see it and to count out the spaces of how exactly it was? I've always very precisely led people to the thing they were looking for. I would go, oh, it's this, 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 and that, and that. My dad said, have you seen my hammer? I'm like, yes. If you stand on the door of the first stall and you reach up on top, you'll be able to find it on the roof of the barn. So that's my sense of psychic intuition. Isn't like, okay, I see people in front of me and I'm hearing crisp, clear voices just like they're in the room. It's more of just shutting up and getting out of the way and allowing the information to come through.
Yeah.
So I finally really did that when I was really sick one time, and I needed to find out why I was sick. And I got out a dowsing chart and began to douse. I had a little class in it, and I thought, I got to save myself because I'm going to die here. And I began dowsing. I got an alphabet chart, began dowsing with the alphabet, and all the answers were spot on. Just incredible information was coming through that way. So I continued dowsing, and very shortly, within 3 or 4 days of dowsing with an alphabet chart, the words, I was knowing the word at the beginning of each letter of the alphabet, and then pretty soon I didn't need the word anymore. So to get information, I usually sit down at my computer and I ask a question, and then I just write down everything that comes to mind. So that's kind of how my psychic mediumship works.
Okay, because I know there are a lot of people, and when I first started really being able to channel different guides, it was really, I couldn't speak. It felt like it was like stuck in my throat for a long time. I don't know if you've ever had that happen to you when you were beginning this, or it was always an easy flow for you.
Well, I tell people when I'm trying to answer them that I can look like an idiot because I'll be in hang on, I can't say that, so I'm wrong. Yeah. I was gonna say I'm in mid-sentence, but what I was about to say wasn't quite right. So, but I do. I look silly half the time because I'm like, okay, wait.
Yeah, and then they correct you, or you're like, that's not politically correct. You can't say that, or we don't say that anymore like that. That's wrong.
Lots of people have heard me saying, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
It is.
So that's how I receive information. And so I just ask questions and then write down the answers. But I do a thing, if you guys want to try it, I do a thing where I sit and say, I raise my vibration to the level of divine guidance. I raise my vibration to the level of divine guidance. And I just keep saying that. And then I ask a question and I write it down. so I write down. So I was sitting at the computer one day and I said, everything's, kind of upside down in my husband's family right now. What can I do to resolve their problems? And Abraham said, place their souls in a court of atonement to have their problems resolved.
So has he explained how those words came up or why those words are used? Because I've never heard any other guides using those terms.
They are thousands of years old. I'm not able to change them. He said they're thousands of years old. The Court of Atonement is something that's been in place. And he said that they are, he said it's kind of, we can liken it to Judgment Day, where we're gonna go in, but he goes, the only person that you're really facing is you. He's like, you're going to look at what you're doing and what's going on, and they're going to look at what they're doing and what's going on. Going to maybe have opposite life reviews for the opposite, from the other person's perspective, and you see what you did cause that person to feel, and you feel it, and you go, oh, never mind, I'm sorry. But it's done at the soul level. It's not done at the human level. So that's the trick of it. Still letting people in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're asking if I was referring to the Lords of Karma? Never heard of that before in my life. So I'd have to look into it and find out.
And tell us a little bit. So the first guides that you've been working with, did you give them names initially, or they gave you the names, or how did you come up with that?
I always asked them. I always asked, what is your name? And I used an alphabet chart, and I had names that were like, I had one whose name was Jeek, Jeek, one was Limihi, Limi, or Ji, Limihi, and I'm like, ooh, these aren't real. I'm making this up, right? Then I asked him, where was this a lifetime that you were in? Yes. Where did you live? And Jeek said he was in Romania, and Limihi said she was, I think, in the Philippines. And so then I Googled that name and the name of the country that they said they were in, and I'll be darned, common name there, common names. Went, holy cow. But the first person that I asked, he came through as Abraham, and I have to tell you, I was very depressed to find that my name of my guide was already taken. You don't have some cool name, and I didn't know until probably 3 or 4 years ago, right about the time that I met Jackie, I was talking to Abraham. And I'd been talking to him for like 15 years now. And so like 4 or 5 years ago, I was looking at something, and they said the Abrahamic religions. And I went, what is that? And then it's like, well, the Abraham is the father, known as the father of Judaism. Yeah. And he's the Abraham in the Catholic Bible and in the Quran. And I'm like, what? Is this you? And he's like, well, like, of course. I'm like, dude, you're famous. I didn't know that. He's way more famous than Abraham Hicks. He's way more famous than Abraham Hicks with Esther Hicks. But that's him as well.
Listen, I'm really glad you clarified that, because I know, like, in your little trailer on your website, Court of Atonement, you say it's the Catholic tradition, but when you say Abrahamic, that's a much broader, wider spectrum with the Judaic and including all of those traditions from the Middle East.
When I said it was Catholic, when I said the Catholic religion, I'm referring to my base is Catholic, that he's telling me that I should be using the tools of Catholicism to use energy work, because he's going, if you use the Lord's Prayer, that's been being said for thousands of years, and it's your birthright. You were born
now in I was trying to figure out how exactly to interpret that, or maybe I was looking at it not exactly right. I'm glad you clarified that, because that's really interesting that way, because I know you use the Lord's Prayer. So if you want to help break down for the audience exactly how you've I don't want to say enhanced, but how you specifically using the name in particular incorporate that into all of the energy work that you're doing now and the channeling you're doing now.
Are you talking the Lord's Prayer or the Court of Atonement?
Well,
The Lord's Prayer.
when you say, name your full name, I place myself in the Court of Atonement, it sounds almost like the beginning of the Lord's Prayer.
Oh, um, the reason for saying our names, I'll just go with that because I don't know exactly what we're saying here, but our name carries so much energy with it where we would be shocked that it is what connects us to, I'm going to use the term Akashic records, okay? That if you're not using your name, you're not going to connect correctly to the Akashic. They want to know who you are. And so when you're using a Court of Atonement, think of it like you're going to go pick up a prescription. Even if I'm going to put my husband in the Court of Atonement, if you go to pick up his prescription, they want to see your ID. Who is this that's picking up this prescription for another person? So think of it like that. You need to state who you are to get the energy going. I think of the name as a generator, and I'll sometimes say, I, Amy Josepha Richards Ellis, I, Amy Josepha Richards Ellis, and I'll start repeating it until I feel like my energy's really rolling, and then I'll state the declaration that I'm going to make to the universe to make a shockwave change, so when you're using the Court of Atonement, same thing. The more you say your name, sometimes I'll have us repeat it 3 times. The more you get grounded in who you are, and the farther the energy gets to be pushed.
Yeah.
So
a lot of that brings up a lot of questions that I know people have asked me in the past, and I wanted to hear your take on it in terms of using their name, or when someone changes their name or adds on a new name when they get married or change spouses. It goes back to your original name, or you add on a new one, or you completely change your name. How do you feel that relates to their energy?
It sucks. It really sucks, and it's a problem actually for a lot of people. That when they've gotten so many, like gotten a divorce, and then there's that name hanging out there, and they don't know what to do with it. I just have them using the Court of Atonement, but just speak your truth. I am talking to God, the universe, Jesus. You pick your master and say, I am asking to correct the energy around my name. I ask to take the power of my birth name and connect it to whatever name I'm choosing to use now. And that will really help people. Having problems with our name causes energetic problems within our health as well. So it's really important.
And I think
yes.
what I tell people as well always is that it brings you back to a beginning, because now it's a brand new name. You've lost all of those links to what that name represented for you, unless you do, like you said, bring it in with the Court of Atonement. Because a brand new name, it's like it's a baby name. It's a tiny, no history name attached to it.
Right. And one thing that I will say is that for years when I was working with clients, I would write their name down, and depending on how much problem they had with their name, I would feel the energy. And so their first name went down easy, but then the next name would get a little space, and I'd put that down. And I would be leaving spaces between people's last names, and I'm like, there's someone here standing in the middle of your name who is this. And most of the time I would find, I would say 50% of the time at least, I would find unrequited love. Somebody who they didn't even have a relationship with. Someone who just was, a guy they really liked in high school who didn't know they existed. That energy can be stuck in their energy field, and it's shown to me by their name. How many little girls sit at their desk and write Mrs. Joey so-and-so, and they write their name, I would say Amy Jo Ellis. My last name was Richard. I would write it all over my PhD folder. We adopted those names when we were doing that. And that shows up to me as a conflict in their energy field. That's a problem for them. Yeah. So this is a really fun interview, by the way. I love this.
Yeah, no, and we like to keep it really interesting to dive deep into a lot of the things that you've been doing. And I said particularly because so many people I know are beginning channeling, and they're getting guidance, and it's helping them to really be able to discern, is this of the highest divine light that's coming through, or is this not? So
when I sit and say, so to start out clearing, I say I am, and I say my full name, Amy Josepha Richards Ellis, and only Amy Josie for Richard Ellis, and I'll repeat that 3 or 4 times. As I'm saying I am, I'm imagining my energy coming and grounding into myself, and as I'm saying I'm only, it's pushing all that other energy that I've collected of other people's issues, you know, and gotten rid of it. So that's how I start my channelings. And then so I am and only, and then I also do I raise my vibration to the level of divine guidance. I raise my vibration, and as we raise our frequency to this higher level, darker energies cannot come into it. And so that's what makes it, you know, protected, and that you can trust the information that's coming through you.
I like that a lot, because I see a lot of people too, they get stuck almost thinking they are that person, that guide. And it's like, no, you're not that. That is something else from another realm that's coming through you, but you are not them. You know, you're not.
Right.
I think especially when people get some very high level guides, they start assuming they are that person. So learning to discern that, and learning how to read the words that the guide is telling you, because sometimes it's only pictures. Do you get visuals as well, or you're getting auditory? How is that?
It's mostly auditory. When I get an image, it's about 100th of a second and it's gone. So I have to discern from what I just saw. So, you know, I would liken it to this. If I asked you, what did you have for breakfast? You probably get a little fleeting glance of it and not really hold the image. Some people might be able to hold the image, but for me, that hasn't ever happened. There's been, I would say there's been moments where I'll be watching a movie in my head, but I'm more asleep than awake when that happens. So when I'm channeling, that's not the way the energy usually comes through.
So do you also use your channeling for direct healing with your clients, or you bring them straight into the Court of Atonement and that whole process? You answering questions?
I used to do healing, and now it's been more about empowering people to understand how much power they and control they have over their own life. And the Court of Atonement allows them a channel that's very safe to put these people who are in conflict into it. I place myself into a full Court of Atonement with my body, and I ask to correct all conflicts between myself and the way I look and the way I feel. I ask to clear my energy. I put myself in a full Court of Atonement to clear my energy. I place myself in a full Court of Atonement. We got millions of ways to use it, and they say try it for everything. But it's being kind of guided that if it's detrimental for you, it's not going to go through. And so the reason that it's different from other healing modalities is because, like, I was doing pendulum healing, and you would always have to ask permission from that person before you could go do any work for them. Well, you can do the Court of Atonement because you're asking this soul to go to the Court of Atonement and see that soul and correct the conflicts between them. And of course, the soul can say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to accept it.
I like that aspect a lot. I really do. I think that's an awesome, that's an awesome component in your work.
And so in saying that, I kind of need to explain that our souls are so much bigger than what we think. It's way more expansive. The soul is in many places at once. It's not just in our body. And I kind of liken it to being the World Wide Web. So we've got our soul is connected to a lot of things that have happened throughout its lifetime. We only have what we've done in this life, and that's what the spirit is what we've done in this lifetime. So the spirit is separate from the soul, separate, but everything is one, but it's different, if you know what I mean. It's the soul is just bigger.
It's just bigger. I like to refer to it really as the I am presence, you know, and we use that a lot in our meditations. And we actually have, my partner Sue developed a new essence, which is made from it's been charged up here. We've got a very special vortex here, which is why everything that we do is called the vortex something, because it's a literal vortex that's here. It's the tail end of the rainbow serpent that starts in Uluru and weaves its way down specifically here to Tassie and specifically here to this spot. So the I am essence is what helps people really quickly connect to their biggest self on the highest plane that they can reach it. And I think it sounds like you are Court of Atonement helps people to connect to that pretty quickly. And but I like to use that phrase, I am presence. And I don't know how
Yeah,
you
that's
feel.
the I am presence. That's a great explanation of it. It is the I am presence.
Yeah.
In your thing that you came out, you asked me, like, what is my definition of God? Was going to be a
We're gonna,
was going to be
we're
on
gonna get
it.
to
So I'm
that.
going to
Well,
interview
let's just jump
myself.
right into that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it just kind of lays in there so well
Yeah.
that really God is this divine intelligence, and it's best described, the best description of God probably available comes from Star Wars, where he talks
Let's
about
hear this one. I have not heard this.
where he
Go ahead.
talks about he talks about the force, and he
Yeah.
says the force is an energy field that is created by all living things. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, and it binds the galaxy together. And so God is this intelligence and the information. It is the consciousness of everything. And I'm not going to say every living thing. I mean, it is in everything, this consciousness of knowing itself to be what it is. And that intelligence is God. That's that God spark of energy that gets it all to work and makes it all, it makes it all work. It makes it all have life.
Yeah, and all of the really ancient traditions have all recognized that, the Aye Asher Aye, I am that I am that. And that's why I liked linking it to you using the name. I am that as well. This is also me.
Right.
Know?
Yeah, I heard Neale Donald Walsch one time say that he says, God is I am. I am that. 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 And when God is coming through, giving me a piece of information, I will say, who is there? And usually I'll hear Abraham, or I'll hear Granny, or I'll hear, a name or something. And I hear, I am. Who is with you? I am. And I'll go, oh, you again, God, hi. And I do refer to God as a masculine presence. The earth is a very feminine feeling to me. And God's energy feels very masculine, where I can tell the difference between masculine and feminine when I'm, channeling. This feels like a male. This feels like, it just comes through feeling more masculine. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, everyone has their own view and interpretation of that. While we were talking about God, how would you define consciousness?
Consciousness is that it is that life spark that knows itself to be. And it is consciousness, like I said, it's in absolutely everything. And so I'm going to use it beyond, like, when we're working from our conscious mind and we are consciously aware of what we're doing. I have had situations where I talk to inanimate objects. They have consciousness. I love this story. I've told it before, where my son was driving home. He was using the only key to the car, which didn't have a key ring on it, and was one of those old flat metal keys. When he got home, I went down to use the car, and the key is not there. And Tanner's like, I just put it on the dashboard when I got done. And I went out to the car. A month we lived without the use of that car because the only key was missing. We had to ride a bicycle. So I went, this is silly. I'm going to go talk to the key. So I said, I change my vibration. I adjust my vibration to the level of the key. I adjust my vibration to the level of the key. I asked to speak to the key. And I said, I just kind of got this feeling of I'm connected to it. So I said, where are you? I don't know. And I said, well, I said, where do you think you are? Between the seats of the car? So we tore the whole center divider out of the car. We tore everything out of the car. The key wasn't there. I said, what do you see from where you are? And he goes, it's all black, just this little horizontal crack of light. And I look, and that's the CD player, is a little horizontal crack of light. I take a screwdriver and open the flap and look in, and laying down in the bottom of it is my key.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. So, with a piece of you know, with a magnet on a pencil, we stuck it in there and retrieved the key. But the key was able to communicate with me by getting into the conscious level. I've done it with trees, I've done it with rocks, I've done it with chairs. Whose energy feels so horrible in this chair? I stop, talk to the chair, it tells me who sat in it last. And then I can go do some work for them to heal them, because I could tell they were very sick because I sat in the chair.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the last person sitting in this chair was really sick.
Oh, jeez. That's a funny story, and I like that analogy of bringing your vibration to the level of what you'd like to connect to. But I have another question that wasn't on my list that I sent you, and that's a question that I see a lot of people who are channeling asking, and that's how do you turn it off when you're done, or you need to sleep because they've got so much stuff that they want to give you, so much information's flowing?
I don't normally shut it off. I just kind of live with it. But I know that I have seen other people who, it's like I've gone and met, oh gosh, I can't think of his name right now, but I've watched other psychic mediums. One lady wears a hat, and she's like, if I have the hat on, no service. If I am wearing a hat. And so you basically just have to tell them, during these hours of the day is when I'm going to be susceptible to you, because I might want to turn it off at night when I'm going to bed. And so I'll just say, I'm going to sleep now, night, you know, and put it, because they will continue to play in my head a little bit. I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name, John Edward. He was saying that he says I have business hours, and these are not business hours. And then he'll close. So he makes an opening statement that welcomes them in, and then he closes the statement. So those are the ways people can do it. All you have to do is let your intentions be known. Our words create in our universe just absolutely incredibly once you are aware of it, once you recognize what you're saying. I have a whole free program that's called Stop It. Because what we say creates, and we walk around saying, well, I can't do that. I can't do, shut up, stop.
I would highly recommend everyone grab that program if you haven't gone through it. I'm only up to day 12 so far, because I just met you, heard of you about 12 days ago. It must have been 13 days ago. But tell people how they can get access to that. They stop it.
That's on the web. That's on the website, www.courtofatonement.com, or just courtofatonement.com will take you there. But COURT, Court of Atonement, @1ment is how that's spelled for ease of access. I'm still letting people in. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah. And a question for you. Where'd it go? Where do you feel most at peace with yourself, Amy Jo?
All day, all times.
Excellent.
I'm so easy on myself. I always have been. Whoopsies. Uh-oh, darn it. It's a really good thing to adopt. No more cussing at yourself or getting mad. If you just go, oops, dang it. You know, it's kind of like, whoa, gosh, one of my favorite things that ever happened was my father, I was making stew, and we were making a big crock of stew, and we had opened the Morton salt shaker, the big salt shaker, to open it this way. I'm pouring it in, and the steam hits it, and it turns slippery, and the whole salt shaker, the whole big thing of salt, pound of salt, goes bloop into the stew. And my father-in-law goes, oh my gosh. And I just looked up at it and said, what, too much salt? No getting mad, no expletives, just, it's okay. I fished it out, nothing, no harm, no foul.
That's good. And do you have a particular spiritual practice where you turn it on, or you do meditation, or what is how do you begin your day? Or
okay, well, when I wake up in the morning, I begin saying, I am Amy Josefa Richards Ellis, and only, and I say my whole name. Now, my name is long, and if you're more comfortable with a little short part of your name, you can say that. For me, I like the power that big name gives me, so I say it all. But I'll say, I am Amy Josepha Richards Ellis, and only with power, Amy Josepha Richards Ellis. I am a divine creator. My words create, my thoughts create, and I am aware. And I'll make these kind of statements as I'm waking up in the morning to make me mindful of what it is that I'm doing. And as soon as I start doing that, energy begins to move. I begin yawning, blowing out, having all kinds of energy move. Because when I wake up, I'm not me. I don't know who I was all night, but I can tell I feel very different after I make that announcement. So that's the way I start my day. And when I'm done, when I am done with this, when I am finished with this at the end of the day and I'm laying down to bed, I start saying I am Amy Jo again, and only, and then that's pushing those other energies out. And I'll say, for me, I placed myself in a full Court of Atonement for the purpose of a good night's sleep. And that's kind of shutting it off at the end of the day. But pretty much my energy's running at all times because people are constantly asking me questions, and I like it being there.
Nice. And so is there a spiritual book that you've given as a gift most often?
No, I haven't been allowed to read a book. My guides have asked me to stop reading books, and I stopped reading books. I was an avid reader. I mean, just like read every book in the library system that I could get and bought books all the time. And then Abraham said, because of the clarity of your thought and your communication with us, we request that you no longer study other people's teachings.
See, I think that's a really good point, that a lot of people are always looking elsewhere for their guidance, whereas to me, the point of guidance is that we connect to our highest self for our guidance, for what's good for us. And learning, and that's why I keep coming back to that discernment question. And so I'm really thrilled to hear that they told you've got to listen to your guides, to you.
Yes, you have to listen. They just said, please don't. And so every once in a while, people will mail me a book or whatever, and I'll oh my God, I'm so happy. And I'll open it, I'll get like 4 or 5 pages in it. It's like, I'm not allowed to read it. I can feel it all over, doggone it. And I'll hand it to Ken and go, here, honey, here's a really great book. Tell me if you find something really valuable that we should, make a change or adjust. Mostly he doesn't read.
So what do you think happens when we die, Amy Jo?
Oh, well, there's definitely a life after this. There definitely is. I have a description of it that I asked because my sister had died, and then she came to me using the F word a whole lot and not pretty words. Ooh. And I thought, boy, I need to help her transcend. So I helped her transcend. And a couple days later, she's back using the F word, and my mentor was saying, hey, your sister's here, and she's really a potty mouth, And I'm like, he's like, you need to do some work for her. And so he guided me through doing some work for her. We transcended her into the light. And then later that same afternoon, a friend of mine goes, hey, I'm driving on my way to Arizona, and your sister's in the car with me using the F word. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, okay, Abraham, give it to me straight. What happens when we die? And he said, well, the soul disconnects. And he goes, there's kind of 3 areas that you have to know. Because I said, he's like, he's trying to give me the standard answer. And I said, no, look, this is happening. I want to know what's going on. And he said, well, when we die, the soul disconnects, goes happily onto the soul realm, passed go and collected $200 on the way. You know what I mean? It was a good, happy thing. The soul is fine. The spirit now sticks around. And it is more in a radio frequency, I'm going to call it. They are they're very real, and their energy is condensed. They are in a place, they are this way, but they are connect to us in a radio frequency that allows them to connect to many people at the exact same time. And everything is good for them. unless it's not. Just like when we're alive, if we have things that we haven't forgiven in life, they can hang on. The spirit level can hang on to that, and they can remain unhappy. That's where you get disgruntled spirits. But for the most part, they can get out of that and be and do anything they want. There's a third level of connection, which is the unhealed events, the unfinished business, if you will. And this is a lower vibrational frequency. That's where earthbound spirits come from, and it's not all. So he calls it denied aspects. These are the things we denied about ourselves. We never handled it. We never fixed it. It was denied. He calls it. Some are repressed memories. Some are unrequited love. Some is unfinished business. So it's a lot of things that go into it. And he said there's likely to be as many denied aspects. There's likely to be thousands of those. So each time I was being approached by my sister using the F word, it was a different denied aspect of her life. Okay. So I was helping her get over her, leaving her husband and their relationship was having issues. Once I handled the relationship with her husband, she was able to transcend. Then the next time she was angry about somebody calling her fat in her 30s. And we cleared that up, she transcended. And so each one is a different episode of their life, a different unhealed hurt. So the asking for, I placed myself in a court of atonement for soul recognition, asks the soul to look at as many denied aspects as it's willing to look at. And these are the things that he explains. This level of connection goes downstream. It'll go out to brothers and sisters, but mostly it goes to our children and our grandchildren. But if there's no children and grandchildren, it'll go out to brothers and sisters. And it will, the spirit that can, when the spirit connects back to that, those things lay dormant. I have to explain that. Those things lay dormant. They're forgotten, just as forgotten as they were in our life. But they have like a little, think of a combination lock that opens and activates them like an MP3. You have to put pressure on it to activate the MP3. When a combination of energy that is similar to the event that happened passes an area that's got that denied aspect in it, all of that energy comes to life, and the denied aspects wake up, and the soul connects to that, or the spirit connects to them. And when the spirit connects to them, you have a ghost.
Okay.
And so denied, it is, how do I say that? We have lots of denied aspects, but not all denied aspects become ghosts.
So a question for you, how long did it take you, or how many tries did it take you to help your sister move from swearing like a sailor as in spirit form to be able to fully ascend to her next realm?
A lot. It took a lot of tries. And then once we found the Court of Atonement, I put her in a Court of Atonement and requested I asked for her to look at any and all denied aspects, and my poor sister died first because it made them have like a little video of each one of them. It doesn't hurt them. They're just like walking around and all of a sudden do all these memories, just like you'll be walking along and go, oh, wow, I just remembered this, right? It's just a memory and it flashes through. And it really helps them to resolve. But after my godfather is Burt Reynolds, and after he died, I had put him through and asked for that to happen. And he said, some of us have a lot of stuff we really don't want to see again. It would help everybody if you would just ask that they have the ability to change the things they didn't like in their life using the Court of Atonement. So it's been changed, so it's a lot kinder to them. And I even I worked on Robin Williams years ago, and he came through not too long ago being a potty mouth like he is and saying, yeah, I had to die before Burt Reynolds came along and perfected the whole thing, So they do appreciate it. Even though it was uncomfortable in the beginning, they still came and said, thank you so much for that. That freed us up so much. So it is beneficial to them. And now it's a lot kinder to them than it used to be.
Oh, I've never heard that explained in that way. Exactly. That's awesome. Did Burt?
Yeah, so
did Robin Williams have any other great stories for you that we haven't heard? That you're allowed
God, I see Jackie Ryu laughing. I brought him in, something was going on. I saw his face on screen, and I said, hey, Robin, how are you? Do you need, I just said, I asked to speak to Robin Williams, said about 3 or 4 times. He comes through loud and clear. I mean, I'm hearing his accent. I'm hearing the way he talks. I'm hearing the cadence of him. And he's like, oh my God, it's her. Look out. You got the whole afterlife quaking in our booties. Don't say her name. And he's being really funny. And then he's like, no, all seriousness aside, could you bring my mother and father in and ask for transcendence assistance for them for me? And so he came through and asked for assistance once he got that.
Wow.
Oh, so people are saying, what can we say for the dead to help clear them? And you start with your name. I state your name. And I'll give you a little space so you can say it. I place so-and-so, so somebody who's already passed, I place them into a full court of atonement, for the purpose of requesting transcendence assistance. Thank you, Jackie. She kind of wrote that up there for you. So I'm requesting transcendence assistance for them. And that allows their soul to go into the court of atonement, I don't want to see that. I would rather go back in time and resolve that rather than relive it. And then, so that allows them to pick up all of their problems, and it helps to remove the energy from all of the loved ones. So if you're doing it for your grandparents and I put the family lineage in every once in a while, and I always use family lineages because we all have 2 lineages. And so I state our names again, place the entirety of my family lineages into a full court of atonement, and I am requesting transcendence assistance for anyone and everyone who needs it. It's not something that you can use for a living person who's dying. It's not something you can do for them. You have to wait till they're gone in order to use that passage, but that's very helpful.
Just out of curiosity, do you have a similar type of saying for a lot of the first peoples who've been here for literally tens of thousands of years? The Aboriginals have been here for over 50,000 years, and that's a lot of lifetimes of people who've done things to other people. And we've all had many lifetimes of...
You can do the same thing. I like to... Do you see that? Give me a second. Let me formulate that. What is going on? Spirit and our own minds, we kind of need a believable perimeter of what we're going to do. For many people, we don't feel like we can say, I place the entirety, I place each and every person who has ever dwelled upon the earth into a full court of atonement. We can do it. It's limited to our belief system. If we think this is a bunch of hokey shit, well, guess what? So you can't get it out if you don't believe in it. And so you can, if you can see in your mind's eye what 10 miles would look like around you, you can say, you can kind of look around and go, 10, I state your name, place the land for 10 miles in parameter around me into a court of atonement, and I am requesting transcendence assistance for anyone, anywhere who's ever lived on this piece of property, for transcendence assistance for everyone who needs that. So one of my mentors, Sage, is in here. She's saying the word ancestors should help. I place my ancestors or the ancestors on this property into a court of atonement. That would be helpful. But you have to kind of believe in yourself and believe in your ability to do it. This was a big lesson to me the other day. My mom and dad were on fire evacuation, mandatory evacuation. The fire was within a mile of their home. And there, we were trying, Mom said, how is this fire? And I said, not good. And she goes, oh, I don't like hearing that. And I said, well, that means there's work to do to change it. And she said it was, the fire had started on this side of the property. And I said, but I see it coming in around the other side. I don't see it coming at you straight up. I see it burning around and coming from the other direction than where you are. I don't know if it's 2 fires or what, but it's not good. And I said, let me do some work here to stop this. And I began saying, I am Amy Josie for Richard Ellis and only, and I began doing that. And then I began building my energy up. And then I made a declaration. I am safe. My parents are safe. Their property is safe. I demand it. And I said, Majeska Canyon, the community they live in, it is safe. And then I began to feel, I said, are my parents safe? Where I asked before and got a no, I got, yes, they are. And so I said, that being said, Mom, get out. It's going to come, it's coming close. So get out, get the animals out, because they've got horses and stuff. I said, I feel this is serious. So I came in and asked Abraham, I said, what do I need to do to strengthen this? And he said, you got to work on your ability to believe that you are creating this right now. And so I said, okay, I believe that what I'm saying will be done. And I went, I'm hoping it is. And I said, I placed all the reasons I said I'm hoping it is into a court of atonement to be resolved. I demand that I believe in myself. And I began to kept doing that. Do I believe that my words create and I am creating my desired outcome? No, I place all the reasons I just said no into a court of atonement to be corrected until I said, do I believe what I'm saying is what I'm going to get? And I got, yes, I do. And he said, okay, now ask God for the miracle. Ask for what you want, but only see the miracle in the path, in the finished form. So I, in my mind, began to imagine my parents putting their horses back in the corral, hanging their paintings back on the wall, everything going back to status quo, began holding that vision. And my sister called and she's like, oh my God, I went down to Mom and Dad's, the fires. You can see the flames from the house. It's just like, it's right there. And she's talking and I'm going, and we're putting, in my mind, I'm going, and we're putting the horses back in the corral. This is all over with. It's on its way. And I just continued to talk my way through that. And as I was sitting there talking to her, I said, well, I know that the fire, blah, blah, blah. And as I spoke about it, a cloud of smoke came between me and the computer. And I went like, oh my God, what's that? And I literally jumped up from the computer. Where's that coming from? And I realized it's coming out of my mouth. Like you're outside on a really cold day, except for this is brown smoke. It doesn't taste like smoke or smell like smoke, but it's thick and brown. And I said, whoa, this is crazy. So then I said, what is this about? And he said, you're speaking about the fire, so you're bringing it about. And he showed it to me in a visual way. And so I had to step out and go in and say, okay, I state my name, place myself into a full court of atonement to get my belief system up and to shut up and stop talking about the fire. I have to allow myself to see the future only what I want and not like be investigating how the fire is doing on the news. So like I said, that was a big way. So Court of Atonement has a way of moving energy like I've never seen before. And I've studied all kinds of energy healings and things like that. But the Court of Atonement, where I used to sit with a pendulum and say, I'm scrambling the frequency of this in somebody's body, I'm scrambling the frequency of that, it would take me quite a while. Now, if I say place them in a Court of Atonement, done. It does it in this moment. And so people, healers around the world are using it with their, for their clients to try to push the energy so that they can get the results they're wanting in a much faster time. I just want to say that about it. And I will say that you asked me before about the website. The booklets are $5 on my website, and they're I have them for $5.
That's a really beautiful gift that you give to the universe, to offer that at such a reasonable price.
Well, I want to offer it at a reasonable price because I want it to go. I want people to get this information. I want it to make a difference. And the reason that I charged something for it is my dad has a saying that so much a saying, it framed on the wall in the bathroom. And it says, what we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. Yeah. And so I want them to give something to get it so that they'll be moved to read it. If they got it completely for free, they might not read it.
This is true. And another quick question for you. What advice would you give someone just starting out on their spiritual path?
Clear your energy. Do it several times a day at first, and then work on yourself and the way you feel about things. Work on clearing the way you feel. On my website is a free blog that's called Work on Ourselves First, and if you go in there and you start working on the way you feel, you're getting that dark energy out from inside of you, which is what attracts dark energy in. So you need to kind of get yourself freed up of the emotional baggage. Do whatever you can to clear that up. And then, like I said, state your name. And I have a process called developing healthy boundaries. If you say, I place myself in a full court of atonement for the purpose of developing and maintaining healthy boundaries, those boundaries are like a soap bubble. I think of it like a bug zapper that just clears up energy as it's coming toward us, and our lives get simpler.
Nice.
So if you do that before you start, sit down, ask a question, and then write down the answers that are coming to you, and you'll shock yourself at what you find.
Yeah. So the last part of my interview with you is, I'm going to ask you to just finish these sentences. So short little tidbits. The world needs.
It needs understanding. It just needs that everybody has a reason for what they're doing. And if you took a minute to understand a person, you can accept it and stop hating them for their values, you know. So Abraham once said that the recipe to forgiveness is understanding and acceptance. You understand why a person does something, then you can accept it. Most times when something bad happens, you go, why? Why did he do that? Why? You know, and once you get that why, oh, I always like to tell the story of saying a woman is waiting for a boyfriend to show up. She's made dinner and he doesn't come. The longer he's not there, the madder she gets. He walks in the door finally 5 hours late, and she goes, where were you, right? And if he says something really seriously bad happened, blah, 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 she goes, oh my God, are you okay? There's no anger whatsoever.
Yeah.
So once you understand their reasons, we can accept it. So what the world needs is more taking the time to understand why people think the way they think, so that we can communicate better.
Awesome. I believe in. Finish that sentence.
I believe in the power of my words to create my day.
Nice.
Fully and completely. Yeah.
Excellent.
And to change the way I see it.
Yeah. And another short sentence, love is.
That's a good one. Let me get a second here. Love is understanding and accepting people exactly as they are.
Nice.
But it's also this nice, excited feeling about anything.
I would like to thank.
I would like to thank God, the universe, and all of the people who listen to me. So I have all of what I have behind me. I just have gratitude for everything. I would like to thank everybody for what they do and what they bring to the table, even the things I disagree with.
Yeah.
That make me grow.
I am ready to forgive.
Oh, that's easy. Anybody for anything.
Nice.
Yeah, because once you have the understanding, all's well.
And I want my legacy to be.
Oh, I want my legacy. What I heard in my head was I want my legacy to be, she was always happy.
That's great.
I live a very happy, joyful existence.
That's awesome. Well, listen,
I aim to make the world a happy place. You know, my legacy is to bring joy to the world.
I love
Neale
it.
Donald Walsch used to call me Amy Joy.
So I have a question for you. Are you going to incorporate some of your singing into your healing work and your all this energetic work?
Right now I have been so backed up with time restraints that I haven't, but it is in my to-do list. When I kind of get like the curriculum behind me, then yes, I actually have a pretty nice recording studio behind that beautiful colorful curtain right there. Stands a lot of equipment I would love to be bringing. I haven't written a decent song anyway in 5 years, and I'm a master craftsman in songwriting, and I mean I'm known as that. So I'm like, I need to bring those tools back up a bit.
I think
it's happening.
It may be happening sooner than you think.
Oh yeah, I like hearing that. Thank you.
It is. Or maybe they're just saying it's time. That's what they're saying.
No, I think you were right. It's got, I've got the, well, one thing is I have so many songs that are out there that, that had real close placements in country music, and they're in the hands of some pretty big name people that they might just show back up. You know what I mean? And I kind of put that out into the, I'm open and willing for the songwriting part to step forward and push the music career to step out a little more.
Nice. Yeah, it's coming. It's all right. Anyway,
It's coming. Okay, yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation today, and thank you to all the 79 other people who jumped in on this call. And I can't wait to share it. We should be able to get the replay up very soon, and give me till tomorrow or the next day to get that edited and uploaded.